Okay, little scientist, Mr. Grandy here with his Action Lab, aka my kitchen and dining room. I had an email sharing a document from a student with his rough draft on Newton's laws, and for Newton's second law, he has an example. If you had an empty can and a full can on a ramp and let them roll down, the full can would roll down faster. Now I read that and I had two questions about that, because one, we know if we drop things that are different masses, especially if they're the same shape, that they're going to fall at the same speed, because that was what Galileo discovered when he dropped those two cannonballs off of the Leaning Tower of Pisa. And the astronaut dropped the feather and the hammer on the moon. They fell at the same speed. But rolling is a little different. So I got two cans, both Pepsi, and we need to have one can empty. So we're just going to dump that out. I know you're thinking, oh my gosh, Mr. Grandy's wasting all Pepsi and not giving it to one of us. Well, I can't, 6 feet, social distancing and all that. And that's just way too much high fructose corn syrup. So we're just going to dump that out. Empty. Okay, so let's run that experiment. We have the empty can and the full can, and let's line them up and race them. Well, the student was right. The full can wins. But does the full can win just because it had more mass? Let's try that again. Let's use two things that have different masses. I have two cells here, a AAA and a AA, and the AA is twice the mass of the AAA. They're different diameters. They're actually slightly different lengths, and one is half the mass of the other. If this went the way the last race did, the heavier cell, the AA, should beat the AAA. No, that's a tie. So, is it just because the can was empty, or is there something else going on? So, with the battery example, or cells, I should actually say cells, because technically one AA is just a cell, and a battery is when you have multiple cells together. So, with the two different cells that were different masses, we saw that it didn't matter what the masses were when the objects rolled down. However, when we watched the cans, the less mass empty can went down a lot slower than the full can. And this doesn't really have so much to do with the fact that their masses are different as it does the fact that the can is hollow, that's empty. It's really difficult to explain this without using a more advanced formula and a little trigonometry, which we haven't done yet. So I'll try and explain it this way. The can has to rotate its mass, and the hollow empty can, the bulk of the mass is on the outermost edge of the can, which is the hardest to rotate. For the full can, the center of mass is in the center of the can, so a lot of the mass of that can does not require that much energy to rotate. It's really complicated to explain, but you're just going to have to take my word for it. If objects are solid and different masses, they will still roll down at the same rate. If an object is hollow versus an object that's solid, the hollow one will lose every time. And I hope this helped explain why using an empty can versus a full can rolling down a ramp is not really a good example for Newton's second law. It's a little more complicated than that. But anyway, you might have found this educational. I hope you did. Stay safe, everyone.